Anybody we know come in there? Hats off on the temple, sir. You're a very pretty redhead, lady. Are you the only redhead in the family? It's embarrassing, isn't it, huh? I have a friend of mine who's a redhead, and it's very embarrassing to him because none of the ancestors, none of the children are redheaded. So he went to see one of these doctors, and the doc said, it's kind of embarrassing. Tell me, your mother and dad, were they passionate people? I mean, did they make love frequently? And he said, no, hardly ever. They were kind of frigid. He said, well, that explains it, rust. What town are you from?
St. Louis.
You're from St. Louis? This is a good town. I came here 10 years ago. I was penniless. Today I owe about $40,000. Not counting the house, you know. Take my wife, will you? There's an offer for you. I think she's flipping out altogether. Showing up in the cooking, too. I'm not saying she's a lousy cook, but pygmies come to our house to dip their darts. That'll give you an idea how bad she is. She walked into the room today, kicked me right in the leg. I said, what'd you kick me for? She said, that's for being such a lousy lover. Well, I got up and I belted her one. She said, what are you hitting me for? I said, that's for knowing the difference. She sent me over to Famous Bar department store to buy her a... All right, Stiggs, Bear & Fuller's all right. They're nice, too. Do you work there, dear?
I sure do.
What department? What? Coats and... I took my wife over to Stiggs, Bear & Fuller the other day, and my wife said to the sales lady, show me something cheap in a dress. And the sales lady said, look in the mirror. And my wife belted her one up there. This one woman walked into the department store, walked over to the bow-legged floor walker and said, pardon me, sir, where's the talcum powder? He said, walk this way, lady. He said, if I could walk that way, I wouldn't need a damn talcum. Went over to the notions counter. I said, pardon me, miss, do you keep stationery? She said, until the last minute, then I go to pieces. I have a hell. Guy looked into the barber shop and he said, Bob Peters in there? The guy said, no, just shaves and haircuts. That's all. Downtown, they have a place where they have women barbers. You've read about it in the paper, haven't you? I walked in, she was nursing a baby, this one gal barber. She took one look at me and said, you're next. I got the hell out of there, I'll tell you. Went across the street, there was a sign on the door. It said, during alterations, everyone will be shaved in the rear. Well, I didn't even go there. I'm a little ticklish, you know. I had a nice day today. I took the family for a ride, and I got lost out on the highway there, and I pulled over the side of the road, and there's a little kid standing there. I said, Sonny, I'm lost. How do I get back to St. Louis? He said, I don't know. Is there a gas station around here? He said, I don't know. Is there a telephone around here? He said, I don't know. I said, you don't know anything, do you? He said, I ain't lost. So I patted him on the head till he was dead. A nice kid. You know, you're a great audience here in St. Louis. I had always dreamed of the day of work in Las Vegas, and I finally got my chance a few years ago. I worked one of the big hotels out there, in the lounge. Well, I hear you laughing. You must have been in the lounge. Because a lounge in Las Vegas, ladies and gentlemen, is a resting place for the losers. See, each hotel has a main room and also a lounge. Now, in the main room, they're still swinging. They have plenty of money. But in the lounge, they've had it, and they're scheming how to get home. One guy called me over and said, hey, kid, you want to buy a rented car? One woman won a lot of money. She had a system, shook up the dice real good, opened up her main coach, she was entirely nude, lifted one leg high in the air, threw the dice up onto the table under her leg thusly, yoo-hoo-wee, picked up the money and left. One guy said, what was her point? He said, you weren't watching either of them. Santa Claus came down the chimney, and he was putting the toys around the trees, and this gorgeous gal walks into the room. She says, Santa, won't you stay here tonight and keep me company? He says, ho, 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 hey, hey, hey. Gotta get in my sleigh and be on my way. The little kids need toys to play. With that, she took off her beautiful gown and looked very sexy. She said, Santa, are you sure you wouldn't like to stay here and have a few laughs? Ring-a-ding-ding. He said, ho, 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 hey, 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 gotta get in my sleigh and be on my way. Little kids need toys to play. With that, she took off the remainder of her clothing, and she was gorgeous, beautiful. Looked like the center page of Playboy magazine. She said, Santa, are you sure you wouldn't like to spend the rest of the night with me? I'm kind of lonesome. He said, ho, 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 hey, 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 gotta stay, can't get back up the chimney this way. Would you mind using matches, sir? That lighter you have there sounds like a zipper and gives the place a bad name. Will you watch that? That's a beautiful suit you have on, too. Don't wash it. I don't care what the ad said. Listen to me, will you? Want to see your crazy lining? Buck and a half extra. Right? That's a beautiful ring you have. You like my ring? I got this in a very unusual way. A little old lady came in a few weeks ago. She says, Mr. Bold, I'm 90 years old. I don't have a family and no friends. And you seem like a nice fella. Do me a favor. And I said, anything you say, ma'am. She says, here's $300, and if I should die, I want you to buy a stone. How do you like it? Have you ever one? I like old people jokes. There's a very fine golf story out. It's about these two professional golfers were out practicing one day, and a little old man walked by, and he said, hey there, young fellas, can I play a little golf with you? And one of them said, go away, old man, we're kind of busy, you know, we're professionals, we take our game rather seriously. He says, so do I, pal, and I want to play one of you young fellas for a little money there, like $50 a hole. Well, their eyeballs lit up and said, tilt. They flipped a coin to see who was going to take on his old live boy, and one of them wanted to toss. Now, the old man teed up first. And he swung at that ball, and he hit it, but it didn't go very far. He was an old, feeble guy. Just went a little distance, and the professional kind of smiled to himself. But the old boy looked at him. He said, oh, there, young fella, I forgot to ask you one little favor. Would you spot me 2 gotchas? He says, gotchas? I don't know what those are, but whatever you want, you got it. Let's get this game over with. Now the pro tees up. And as he's about to complete his swing, he's about to hit the ball, the old man grabs him by the fanny and goes, ah! And a professional golfer missed the ball about 2 feet. He said, what the hell was that? What do you call that? What's that? And the old man said, oh, young fella, that's a gotcha. Well, they finished the game. The professional is dejected. The old man is jubilant. And the other professional says, don't tell me the old guy beat you. He said, hell, yes, he beat me. Did you ever try to hit a ball waiting for your second gotcha? Here's our second golf story. This has to do with a fellow who was really a bug on golf. You know, anybody that knows, anybody that plays golf, they really, they go all out for this game. And he'd forever come home very late, and his wife was getting pretty perturbed. And she said, Frank, I want you to come home on time tonight. We're going out for dinner. I want you to be home at 5:30. Now, you're leaving. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. You can certainly be home by 5:30. He said, okay, honey, I promise. He gets home about 10 o'clock that night, and she's really burning. She says, where have you been? It's 10 o'clock at night. He said, honey, I have a good excuse. You know, I was playing golf with Smitty. You know, he's got a bad ticker. His heart is bad. He had a heart attack, dropped dead at 9 o'clock this morning. She said, that was 9 o'clock this morning. What are you doing home at 10 o'clock at night? He said, did you ever try to hit a ball and drag a body and hit a ball and drag a body? Red, you're not watching me, Red. You gotta pay attention. Red, you're on my album so far. So far, we got more of your act than we have of mine. What are you drinking? Looks like a specimen. What is it? Now, we have good drinks. Do you like our drinks? They're nice. There's more folks coming in. Pretend like you're having a good time, will you, folks? That's enough. They're in. They're in. She has a cute hairdo. Looks like Prince Valiant, doesn't it? Here, Prince. She wears her bangs on the side, though. I think I'll write a song about her. A little song titled, She Has Brown Hair and Bangs on the Side. Hi, folks. Nice to see you. Where are you from, sir?
Indiana.
Indiana? I used to go with a girl from Indiana. I could tell by her South Bend. Well, they can't all be gems, folks. You know. What part of Indiana are you from, sir?
South Bend.
You're from South Bend? You know, my father used to bum around that town. You may be my brother. And we have Larry Faust, the great basketball player with the St. Louis Hawks. Where are you from, Larry?
South Bend. Fort Wayne, Dave.
Fort Wayne? That's a great band leader, Fort Wayne. No, that was Wayne King. I mean, you remember Wayne King, folks? The guy who used to play with Lady Esther? What are you drinking, blood? What is that?
Pink Poontang.
A pink poontang cocktail? See, we had one gal in here drinking one of our pink poontang cocktails the other day. He said, if I have 2 more, I'll really feel it. He said, you have 1 more and anybody will feel it. Stir it up good, Larry. You don't put much in there. You have to get it up to the top. Where are you from, sir? May I ask?
Missouri.
You're from Missouri? And what do you do for a living?
Carpenter.
You're a carpenter? We have a little carpenter story if you'd like to hear it. All right, this is a story about a little Jewish fellow who used to steal wood. Couldn't keep his hands off the wood. Every time he see a hunk of wood, he'd grab it. So he went over to the rabbi one day. He said, Rabbi, I steal wood and I want to confess. And the rabbi said, we don't have confessions in the synagogue, Sammy, but if you want to see Father Murphy up the street, it's okay with me if it'll make you feel better. So he went over and said, Father, I steal wood and I want to confess. And the priest said, well, we all have a little idiosyncrasy. Like I take a nip from the bottle sometime I'm not supposed to. He said, you don't understand, Father. I really steal wood. 2x4s, 6x8s, 36x20s. I steal a lot of wood. He said, Sammy, that is kind of serious. We'll have to make an ovina. He said, wonderful, Father. You got the plans. I got the lumber. It's about the only carpenter joke I know, you know. And your friend there, what does he do for a living?
All business.
In the oil? They found oil on my land, you know. My car's leaking. You have a gas station? Oh, has he got gas? What do you do for a living, sir?
Carpenter.
Carpenter? Would you like to sit, you want to sit in this section? Huh?
In East St. Louis.
In East, you live in East St. Louis? That's overseas from here, you know. Oh, I used to work in East St. Louis at a little spot there. I had a trio, 2 machine guns and a kazoo. It was a hell of a time. During the intermissions, they dragged out the wounded, you know. I get over to the east side quite a bit. I do a lot of Air Force shows out at Scott Air Force Base. And matter of fact, I wrote the Air Force theme song, Button Up Your Overcoat and Fly, which was a hell of a time. Are you from the Air Force, sir? On our side? That's good. What do you do for a living, sir, may I ask?
I furnish dives like these. I'm from San Francisco.
You're from San Francisco, sir?
I furnish dives like these.
Dives like these? Why, you miserable. Dives like that. There's a reason for birth control right there. There's a result of unskilled labor. I'm only kidding, sir. You're my friend. You're all right in my book. My name is Kinsey, by the way. Page 402 under miscellaneous. What do you do for a living, sir?
I sell mat new.
You sell what?
Mat new.
Mat new? What's mat new? What is mat new?
That's poontang spelled backwards.
Oh, I see. Well, if you like it that way, it's all right with me. Poontang spelled backwards. I hate him. He got to laugh, you know. Oh, the audience fooled you sometime. We get some pretty sharp guys in the crowd.
I'm from an old Greek family there.
You're from an old Greek family? Really? Never on Sunday? In my religion, it's never on Yom Kippur, and remember. I've written a cowboy picture about a cowboy rabbi. Clip along Max. Who performs all the circumcisions from horseback. Mustn't carry a gun in the holster, pinking shears. And even the Indians will get theirs. And that's where they find the last of the Mohicans. And the Mohicans. I thought that would be kind of... I have always enjoyed two-man comedy, so I'll take both parts. Sal, how's your wife? Better than nothing. Frank, how's your wife? Compared to what? Phil, did you sleep with my wife last night? Not a wink. Charlie, how do porcupines make love? Very carefully. Of course, we had the little story about Becky and Sam. Becky got up in the middle of the night. She said, Sam, close the window. It's cold outside. He gets up very angrily, slams the window down. He says, now is it warm outside? You two fellas over there, the Rover boys, you're scouting for gals, right? Huh? Say, a couple of girls wanted me today. I heard one of them say, get him. Back where I come from, they used to say I got the kind of face that girls go for. They used to call me Gopher Face Dave. Listen, I've been all over the world. In France, there was Fifi. In Spain, there was Lolita. In London, there was Sam. Well, it was a foggy day, I'll tell you. You know, ladies and gentlemen, I think folk singing is coming back pretty strong. The Kingston Trio and the Limelighters have certainly made quite a bit of money singing the old folk songs of America. And I stumbled upon a little song entitled A Frog in a Hole in a Log in the Bottom of the Lake. And with your help, here we go with Frog in a Hole in a Log in the Bottom of the Lake. There's a frog in a hole in a log in the bottom of the lake. There's a frog in a hole in a log in the bottom of the lake. There's a frog in a hole in a log in the bottom of the lake. There's a wart on a frog in a hole in a log in the bottom of the lake. There's a wart on a frog in a hole in a log in the bottom of the lake. There's a wart on a frog in a hole in a log in the bottom of the lake. There's a hair on a wart on a frog in a hole in a log in the bottom of the lake. There's a hair on a wart on a frog in a hole in a log in the bottom of the lake. There's a hair on a wart on a frog in a hole in a log in the bottom of the lake. There's a fly on a hair on a wart on a frog in a hole in a log in the bottom of the lake. There's a fly on a hair on a wart on a frog in a hole in a log in the bottom of the lake. There's a fly on a hair on a wart on a frog in a hole in a log in the bottom of the lake. There's a flea and a fly on a hair on a wart on a frog in a hole in a log in the bottom of the lake. There's a flea and a fly on a hair on a wart on a frog in a hole in a log in the bottom of the lake. There's a flea and a fly on a hair on a wart on a frog in a hole in a log in the bottom of the lake. I think there's a frog in my throat, too. There's a gnat on a flea and a fly and a hair on a wart on a frog and a hole in a log in the bottom of the lake. There's a gnat on a flea and a fly and a hair on a wart on a frog and a hole in a log in the bottom of the lake. There's a gnat on a flea and a fly and a hair on a wart on a frog and a hole in a log in the bottom of the lake. Can we speed it up a little? There's a nit on a gnat and a flea and a fly and a hair on a wart on a frog and a hole in a log in the bottom of the lake. There's a nit on a gnat and a flea and a fly and a hair on a wart on a frog and a hole in a log in the bottom of the lake. There's a nit on a gnat and a flea and a fly and a hair on a wart on a frog and a hole in a log in the bottom of the lake. Faster? Okay, here we go. There's a dust and a gnat and a flea and a fly and a hair on a wart on a frog and a hole in a log in the bottom of the lake. There's a dust and a gnat and a flea and a fly and a hair on a wart on a frog and a hole in a log in the bottom of the lake. There's a dust and a gnat and a flea and a fly and a hair on a wart on a frog and a hole in a log in the bottom of the lake. One more time. And a little faster. There's a German dust and a gnat and a flea and a fly and a hair on a wart on a frog and a hole in a log in the bottom of the lake. There's a German dust and a gnat and a flea and a fly and a hair on a wart on a frog and a hole in a log in the bottom of the lake. There's a German dust and a gnat and a flea and a fly and a hair on a wart on a frog and a hole in a log in the bottom.